I'll go another one.
Well, good afternoon. We are live. Welcome to today's local SEO techniques with Randy, Holly, myself, and Mr. Michael Rayburn, who is with Holly at the moment, in case there's any kind of technical funny business going on with feedback and stuff like that.
I don't know what Holly's doing. Holly's like moving all around. It's like she's flying or something. I don't know.
Right.
Before we see anything, do check out the news guy. The link is below. Mr. Randy himself. If you're interested in his PR services or anything else that he's got there. But back to today's topic, we have Michael, who is in Holly's as a guest. So, Michael, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, just in case they have never heard of you or come across you? I'm sure most people will have, but just in case.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Michael Rayburn. As a lot of people have seen, I speak about SEO quite a bit. I have the Domination Simplified Facebook group. It's got about 4,500 SEOs in there. We do some promos, some teaching, some just generalized just help stuff in there. I've been doing SEO for a little over 10 years now, maybe 11 at this point, and just kind of doing my thing. I'm hanging out with Holly this week and having a good time with her and kind of tearing some shit up and doing that kind of thing. So having a good time.
Good.
Nice.
Get it.
Back to Wisconsin. So you're not at camp, Holly, camp SEO.
No.
Yeah. I've got this idea. I think Michael and I talked about this. We were chatting once last month or something. I think we should do like camp SEO, and we do it out at Holly's campground. People could just come, they could camp, they could do whatever. And we just like low cost just for like food and drink. And then like, we just sit around the campfire and like bust it.
Drink. It would be like camp SEO in the morning, drinking SEO in the evening.
Yeah. Roasting marshmallows, roasting each other, talking SEO smack. Yeah. I think it would be awesome. Would you
I saw a smile on Craig's face as soon as we said drinking at night.
Yeah. Craig, would you come? We could share a tent, man. I'd throw you in my tent with.
I don't share tents with other users.
But it gets cold at night, Craig. You need somebody to spoon with.
No, fuck that, man. I saw you guys in action, man. I get scared, man. I'll stay around the corner.
It was fun. So those of you, by the way, list any questions and comments in the comment section there, folks. We'll get to your answers and such. Just say hi even as well. And as I always like to do for Craig, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow Craig on whatever platform this is streaming on. Yeah, we were out at Holly's. What was that, in July, August? Yeah. When was that?
July 20th. Yeah.
It was like your birthday weekend or something like that. You turned, what, 60? Something like that? Yeah. I was the only one in a tent. I was like tenting. I love camping.
So you're the only... Okay, dude, Craig, Michael, he shows up like he's got his bags packed, his overnight bag, and I'm like, where's your tent? It's in my bag. I'm like, you have your tent in your bag. He's like, yeah. I'm like, do you have a cot in there too? I got my sleeping gear and everything. He just rolls it out. I'm like, dude.
I did. I had my tent, my sleeping bag, my inflatable pad, everything in there, plus clothes. I mean, it was great. Yeah, it was good. It was a good weekend.
I'll take your word for it. I'm sure it was a good weekend. I'm just not sure about camping outside.
Oh, I was
mosquitoes.
No. No mosquitoes. All right. So today we are talking local SEO. Where did Holly go? Holly like wheeled off and Have you been tapping the grappa already?
Yes. Do you say hi, Chloe?
Holly's being a little crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it not a bit fucking early over there for?
I know. Holly's in a rare mood here.
It's because I've been hanging out with Michael for like, dude, what's that been like?
Almost 2 weeks.
Almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you've not killed each other yet?
Close. Close.
Wow.
He was talking during the Packer game. I was like, cut it. Shh.
That's because I kept telling her they need to play to win, right? Instead, what do? They're like, oh, let's go do plays where we know we're only going to gain 1 yard over and over and over.
All right. So local SEO. Michael, I know you do quite a bit of local. Holly, I don't know. Do you dabble into local? What do? Do you kick it up?
I do local. Well,
you're not doing the phone stuff for local anymore.
Yeah, no, we weren't, but when we were at Dark AI, we were introduced to some new techniques, and I came home and ordered a lot more phones. We'll just say that. And so I am doing local now with Michael. I did stop though for a period of time because I was having a hard time moving the maps. So there's a different way to move maps than what we've been kind of taught before. And Michael has been here. And so I was like, it's a good, both of us are like, it's a good time to test it. So we're pulling out my phones and we're both testing them, and we found something that we've seen that was moving. So I am doing local again, but I think it's just very, my part of it is just, is very much with phones.
So local SEO, I guess there's a couple of ways to do local SEO. One is just pure white hat and cross your fingers, hope it works, right? Which is optimize your profile, throw posts out there, get reviews, and like, okay, I hope this works and gets us connected with your site. And then there's a few other things you can do. So I'm surprised you said like you went out and ordered some more phones.
Yeah, I ordered a lot of phones.
Androids, Apples?
This set was Androids. The only reason why is because of TeamViewer. Because iPhones you can't connect with TeamViewer. And if Michael wants to log into the phones, then he can do that from his location in Maryland, and I can be here and give him access or whatnot. So
now with your, I'll just call it new technique, I don't know, but with your new technique, does it matter whether you're using iPhones or Androids?
It doesn't matter if you're using iPhones or Androids. No,
and it's not. I mean, only one piece of what we're doing is newer. Everything else has been stuff that she's played with or I've played with that we know is tried, true, and tested. So we kind of just merged that together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No, I'm waiting to hear anything,
Sure. So,
not to spill the whole beans, but
so I mean, there's foundational
gloss over and like say, hey, we're doing this and this and this and some secret sauce, and this is what we're seeing. But
yeah, no, like so there's stuff like there's good foundational stuff like map embeds, and then putting some keywords in between the tags. There's like we'll create driving directions for them and embed those also. And so like there's just a lot of good foundational stuff in there that most it's really funny that even some of the higher level SEOs or people you would assume would be a higher level SEO, when you start like auditing their work, you notice that they miss a lot of just those very basic things, right? So you gotta be able to try to plug the gaps a little bit when you do things. Like these are just basically like boosters. Like there's enough work that's being done that you could claim a month's work for your client truthfully, and be justified, because it's everything from, grabbing like all their links that they never tiered to, just even for local is super important, and tiering those links for them, as well as like map embeds. There's some of the
There's like social stuff. There's forum posts. There's using cell phones. I mean, a lot of it is stuff that maybe we used to do that maybe did not work, and now it's coming back to working. And Michael's been doing it probably for 6 months to a year. Just this very specific part of it that we learned kind of just helps it boost it more too. So I don't know if that helps her.
So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there, like it's all like we even were talking to Brian Caddo about it before, and he even said it sounds like it's a really great package, to be able to put out an offer. So it's got a lot of neat things, like let's be honest, Google, especially in the local space, throws us signals from time to time that most people never pay any attention to, and the fact that for almost a year now, we can add our social profiles into the Google business profile, right? Which tells us that they want to look at our socials. So if you're not doing things like that, then it becomes harder. So you have to go in and make sure that, those social posts at least get crawled as an SEO if you can't get your client to put that in their profiles. Because obviously there's importance to it. So I think it's Google's way of trying to cut down on their crawl budget is by adding things like that in there.
So I'm going to ask you a few things.
Okay.
Craig, you can, look at those. Craig doing the gun show. Boy. Wow. So you mentioned driving directions.
Yeah.
And embedding. Does that work a lot? Do you see that as being impactful? Because I've seen a lot of different services out there that'll do like, hey, we'll do, 35 driving directions to your right, and they'll build all this Google Map thing. I've always been
like
suspect.
If you're just doing driving direction embed with nothing else, it's probably not going to do anything, right? We're adding in a lot of other things other than the driving directions to make the driving directions powerful. So it's not just it's not just one thing.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like we like to, as SEOs, single out one signal, and we forget that in order to really dominate or crush in an area, we have to have like layers of signals, right? And I think that's where this comes into play. It's kind of like people go, well, I did 100 citations and I didn't see anything happen. And you're like, great, but what else did you do? Did you build a tier 2 to those? Did you push out a press release? Did you do any type of embeds? Did you build any type of backlinks? Did you do like anything, right? And the answer is almost always no. And you're like, well, I agree that testing by running one thing to see if it moves the needle or not, so you could see at least an influx in your grids, it is great. But the bottom line is that if you don't stack all those signals together, so that way you have just like, just a nice, this is a great overall package that you're delivering, you're shortchanging yourself. So you definitely have to get in there and do multiple things, right? But again, it's just a signal. It's just one signal out of the bunch.
How about manipulated URLs? Is that part of your strategy? Or even if it's not part of your strategy, what are your thoughts about that? Because I know there's a few guys out there that are like, yeah, manipulating the URL for your map and stuffing keywords into that manipulated URL and that kind of thing. I don't know if you guys do that or not. What is your thoughts? And does it work? Does it not work? Is it send the wrong signal, to Google?
Right. I know that Holly and I looked at some stuff. I'm not going to say who the person is, but they were bragging about that their GMB was just crushing it because of the manipulated URLs. We're not going to kind of go into how they did it because I think that would tip off who it is. But what was really funny is 5 days after they made this claim, and Holly can vouch for it, it was like almost all red X's in all the grids. And they were not huge grids either, Randy. We're only talking about like an 81 square mile grid, right? So that's only a 4.5 mile radius.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask her.
Yeah. I mean, in his defense, it was red, and then it went green, and it was all like, I think maybe top 3. And within 6 days, it was all red again. So I think it just depends upon what you're doing with those manipulated URLs. If you're sending traffic, you're sending links, whatnot. Or if you're being completely dumb and you're sending 50,000 and you're doing 50,000 manipulated URLs or whatever. So it's just based on how you're using them. I don't know how they were using them. But yeah, it's just that's just one example.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know, Craig. I don't know what your thoughts are about manipulating URLs. I don't know why. Oh, it makes me a little nervous, I think.
I'm not. I've never played with it. I've seen guys talk about it previously at some of the events, but not something I've ever played with. And I mean, I can rank a GMB no problem at all. So do I go and do that? Like Michael talks about different layers. It's not just about driving directions. Everyone's got their own little formula in terms of how they get there. But the manipulated URLs and stuff, see, for me, in my opinion, I'm not saying all, but a lot of guys out there are trying to come up with something creative and something new to say that they're doing. And I think that's the wrong thing to be doing. Just do what fucking works and don't take any risk. People were talking about years ago, send links to the fucking CID URL and they're fucking burning their own GMBs. It's the most unnatural fucking thing to be doing. So, I don't buy. It's certainly not part of my strategy anyway.
Yeah, I had, when you're talking about the CID URL, I had a client we were doing PRs for, and he was adamant that we link an anchor, and he wanted to send everything through his with his GMB, the CID URL. I'm like,
Randy, you do know that when you grab the maps URL, right? Like when you grab the map embed, you realize it does have the CID in there, right? But it's got the lat long in there too.
Yeah. But that I'm just kind of playing around here with on a map here at the moment. That URL that's in if you look at that map embed, and you go to whatever that thing is, from the HTTPS to, well, within the quotation marks, we'll say, right? That's got the latitude, longitude in it. Do you ever link out to that particular URL?
I have. I don't really usually get much of anything one way or the other. Like you see a little bit of turbulence in the rankings, but that's about it.
When you're saying, what do you mean by linking out to any of those map URLs or what?
Yeah, no, not to the map URLs as a whole, but to that particular URL, to the CID, so to the map embed CID link, right? So, like for everybody who's not unfamiliar with what I'm saying. So when you go to google.com/maps, and then you click the share button, which is a little alligator thing, and then it says embed or larger, and you click on that and you grab the copy code. When you look at what the actual hyperlink is that creates the map, it has a CID plus the lat long in, and it doesn't matter if it's a service area business or an address. I have linked to that, and what I mean by turbulence is that you see the rankings kind of go up and down over a few days, but then they kind of level out. It didn't. I mean, if it was an improvement, it might have been in a grid, maybe a quarter of a position 2 weeks later, but it wasn't enough to go, that actually does something, and not consistent enough anyways.
Interesting. All righty-o. You get a question there. Craig, you want to flash that question up from Assad and see maybe
of course,
see if Holly or Michael can help the man out here.
I mean, I think for me, I would ask them if they've built any press releases or any citations, and then worst case scenario, I may consider, and I don't consider this likely, but if that's the case, I may consider like Yext citations because they're paid, and then I probably would force index those citations and build backlinks to them. Let it sit for a week, and then I would go in and try to add the website again. And if that still didn't work, I would change it from a .com to a .net or .org, and then I would just 301 redirect and copy the site and put it into that, and then add it. And one of those two will take, I think.
I've never heard that before, actually, not taking your website into the GMB.
Sometimes it does that with the phone number too. It'll kick it out. We just dealt with what is it, the auto detailing company, and it took me 3 weeks to be able to get them to Google to accept his phone number that was in it at one time, but some person came along and decided to kind of flag the profile repeatedly and say it wasn't theirs. So we had to create enough relevance around that phone number and that business in order to get it to stick.
I had something. This was just last week. It was as we're talking about GMBs and such. I had something that I was like, well, we'll see if this is going to work or not. I had a client who's they went in and did something, but it essentially they asked for him to re-verify his site, his profile, with video. Had to do it with video. So I sent him the instructions. I'm like, hey, do this, show the video, and just send me the video. I haven't had to do a video verification. I don't even know if I've ever had to, actually, to be honest with you. And so he sent me the video. I went in, I'm like, okay, I was going to load it onto his profile. And then I come to find out that, like, no, you've got to do the QR, and actually they're going to like, okay, take it from your phone and you upload it directly from your phone. Well, I'm like, well, this is kind of dumb. So what I did is I took his video, I pulled it up on my screen that they sent me, and then I did the video thing on my phone from their profile, and then I hit it, and then I just played the video and pointed it at the screen. I'm like, well, we'll see if this works. Otherwise, I'll have to have him go through this whole process. I was shocked. They actually took that verification. And I tried to like put it so it was like the screen was showing the video like it was fully, like it could have been, fully coming from my phone, but you could tell it was, if somebody actually manually looked at that thing, they're like, oh, that's a guy, showing the video off of a screen.
Yeah, I think it just depends upon who you get to on the other side of those video reviews. Some people are really a stickler and some people aren't,
Yeah. I thought that was just funny, though.
Someone would probably be laughing their fucking tits off, going, right, fuck it, fair play.
Like if they're spending that much time dressing up and stuff as a woman, we'll give them that GMB.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you're doing various links and stuff, do you guys link out to images from the profile, reviews from the profile? Do you do some of that stuff?
Yeah, so we do. So we pull all the links, we pull all the share codes, we pull like all the photos from like where they're actually served, not the share codes for the photos, all the reviews, all the posts, all of that, and then we do backlinking to that as well. That's something that we've tested quite a bit, especially in my white label that I probably should have mentioned before, but I didn't now. But over in Domination Simplified, we've tested that extensively, and you see good improvements. And I think it's just because even though I think Google's doing everything they can to get away from links, it's just a really good signal to show that, like how people care about, a website or whatever, right? Because even in social media, when somebody's doing a share because they're all excited about something, they almost always include a link. So I think it's really hard to get away from that, even in the local space, so it's a really good signal. It's a strong signal to say that it's creating relevance behind it. But mostly, personally, we do, for the Google business profile, most of what we do for that though is all brand, or like we link to the website or things like that through it. So we're tying nodes together, and I think adding in keywords doesn't really necessarily help as much as we think that it does. And I think that moving forward, because Google's become so brand centric, that adding a ton of keywords into your tier 1, I think, is going to end up hurting you more than it's going to help you even in your websites. I think that if you were to do that more in your tier 2s, you'd probably get happier results. So, but I mean, Craig is the backlink master, right, Craig?
I don't know about the master, but I do try. I do try what I can do to get them, yeah.
But would you agree about like the becoming so brand centric as opposed to keyword centric?
Absolutely. I think when I look at everything over the years or the past few years, whether it be a GMB, whether it be people claiming to have been hit by the helpful content update, when you look at these websites that don't do well, they don't have any branded traffic, and Big Merlino's one, send branded traffic, shouting in Merlino's voice. But, I think that goes across the board into organic SEO. And if you don't have branded traffic, are you building a brand? Do you have a website that really has trust and everything else from Google? Absolutely not. And I think, the branded traffic is vital in this day and age. And I think overall, I think you have to put a person behind a business, like Randy does with his business. It's Randy, the news guy, and he's building that brand and putting himself out all over the place. And I think that obviously brings in trust and authority and becoming an expert in whatever the hell it is you do. And I think that's a big, big thing in this space now. So absolutely. And obviously building links, building the brand name, you can't just go heavily keyword focused, that's spammy as shit. You've got to mix things up a bit. And, but the ultimate goal is, build a brand behind your digital asset, and have people going, where the fuck is Randy the news guy? Even though that's not his domain name, they will probably Google Randy the news guy. That's something you could even check, Randy, on Search console. How many people actually Google Randy the news guy rather than just the news guy? So I think it's massively important.
Yeah. I like the idea of, and I probably have not done much of this. I'm wondering if you guys have played with this and tested when you're talking about the link and linking to like photos and such from your GMB. And I wanted to uncover something a little bit as well, Michael, that you had mentioned. But do you take those links from those photos and then you share those out on social? You find that seems like that would be a very natural kind of signal, a natural activity that people would do. Hey, here's this garage door repair guy, and here's some of the work they've done. Boom, and pop up a couple of photos from their GMB. That would seem like a very natural thing that people would do.
Yeah, so you could do that. I think the problem is that getting the actual photo from where the server has it rendered is a little bit more of an advanced SEO as opposed to grabbing the share code, right? I think that the share code is like having a bit.ly link, and so it kind of decreases a little bit of that. So when you got to get like the L3, L4, L5 image out of the GMB itself, I think that tends to create a little bit more power with that, because that's exactly in the whatever server grouping that Google Business Profile has its images rendered in. It's pulling it directly from there with no filter. And I think that's where the power comes from.
So I have to ask you though, so you go down that road. I'm like, okay, but the average person, I always try to think about from link building, especially with the GMB, is that the average person is not going to know how to go and grab that. They're going to, like the average person, just sharing naturally.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to talk about, this garage door repair guy, and here's some of the work that he's done, and go share some photos. They're not going to know how to go get that. And that's where I come in, like, well, what looks natural link building versus what looks more manipulated? Same thing with kind of that whole concept about the CID URL. The CID URL, probably 5% of the population knows what a CID URL is, or even how to go get it. So, and that's why I think that doesn't necessarily work. But you're like, hey, no, you're going to get more power out of this server-based URL for your images.
So I think it's a little bit more like this, Randy, kind of, before we had plugins and stuff to grab the CID link, when you used to be able to build backlinks to it, like 6-7 years ago, it actually did something. It's like about almost 9 years ago. And I mean, I'm starting to see a little bit come back now, but my maps used to just do crazy stuff. You'd crank out a couple big my maps, 8 years ago, 3-4 of them. And then 60, 90 days later, all of a sudden your map's ranked, right? And 5 and 6 years ago, you could just do a press release with whatever keyword you wanted to rank for. And then in most cities under, I don't know, maybe 350,000, the GMBs would just rank. And I think that what happens is that with time, things like that get played out. But when you're the first adopter, it really happens. Things happen really well. It's kind of like last November, we had that, the winter update. And if you were talking about manipulated URLs, and if you did a manipulated URL with a KGM ID link, and that's just so everybody knows, that's when you pull up your knowledge panel, that's what that link is it's just if you did a exact search for your business and then it comes up at the top, you'll see equals KGMID, right? And if you did a manipulated one where you stuffed it with a keyword and you ran just 2 clicks through it, which is really bizarre, but just 2 clicks, you would rank for a very large area 12 hours later because of that update. And some people caught on to it and some people didn't. And then, the subsequent update sealed that off where it stopped working. But I think that when people find openings like that and they exploit them, you know, you kind of reap the rewards a little bit. And it's not, I don't think it's natural versus unnatural. I think it's, you know, sometimes things are just new, and because they're new, they work really well until they become mass adapted, and then everybody has it. And because it's a signal that everybody has, it just kind of just gets watered down, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. There's some few questions up there, Craig. You want to hit them up?
Yes. We'll start with Stavros.
Stavros, my man.
I do have quite a long list of backlinks I can get, and also some what the competitors have, but in some cases I feel that I kind of run out of them. And are you also building any Web 2.0 or other types of links? And can they be kept being built in the long run? You go first, Randy.
I was going to let our guest respond, but am I building Web 2.0 links? Some links I do. And I don't know, I'll call them Web 2.0, but like Medium as an example, I think Medium, you could call that a parasite kind of link potentially as well, but Medium is a great link to build. You go build out a Medium profile and start putting out content on Medium, and that is a great link. And sometimes, depending upon that, could, you know, be occupy the #1 spot if you're searching for your brand, because just of the pure power of Medium. Yeah, there's a handful of good Web 2.0s that we build out that are just kind of, if we're taking on a new client, that we just do as kind of stock, like, standard, that we're always going to build out. And I don't know how many they are, but there's a handful of them that we're always going to do.
Nice. Michael?
Sure. So yes, we use SEO Neo quite a bit, but it's always branded or naked URL when we use SEO Neo. And again, it's just because Google's so brand centric right now. And so the beauty behind that is you can go out and build more and more and more and more. And so I do appreciate that. But I have been working with Holly a little bit in the background, because some of the parasites are also Web 2.0s, and they're a great way to get traffic. So like Holly is pretty dang near a Reddit master at this particular point. She's faced some pretty, catastrophic events in it to find out where the limits are, and she's really good with it. And so just learning some of that to be able to get our clients, like extra traffic and whatnot, because those type of, like you were talking about, Randy, like Medium, Reddit, like that, you can just pull a lot of traffic from them, once you figure out how to do it. And, like Craig, really, like, all the stuff that you do with affiliate, I mean, as well as I do, sometimes it's easier to grab one of those than it is to, turn around and pound away at everything, at least in the short run. So, I mean, I think that's, and it's a great way, because like when we think about Google, and I'll circle back around to the Web 2.0, but the thing about Google, they want to know that you're getting outside sources of traffic. So social media traffic and things like that also, and those all help your rankings as well. But yeah, we do build a lot of Web 2.0s and tiered, but everything we do is tiered. We don't do anything that's not a tiered linking at all.
I'm just gonna jump in too. So I don't do as much Web 2.0 linking as maybe Michael and Randy do. I do more of the parasite play, and I will do more of whatever Google is giving their love to, then that's where I'm going to build links. So if it is LinkedIn, like 6 months ago, it was maybe more, was LinkedIn. So you would do all of your You could do all of your posts on LinkedIn and add in other stuff. It was Pin before that. Before that, it was Instagram. And there's some really good parasite plays out there that people don't know about, or that they're brand new and they don't know about. So I was, I found, like, me and Michael found another one yesterday, and I was showing him. Actually, I found 2 yesterday, and I tested them both overnight, and they're indexed and ranking on the first page today, and I didn't do anything to them. They're just a really strong parasite. So I think along with Web 2.0s, I think you need to also look at the parasite play, because, or even if you don't want to do that, just look at where Google is, where you're constantly seeing threads. So like if you look up stuff with ClickBank, YouTube is generally on the top 3. So you know that you need to make your post or your videos on YouTube, because that is what's ranking. So no niche is going to be the same thing. Like painting is not going to be the same as like housekeeping. That's going to be the same as carpet cleaning, is the same as plumbing. So I think that you have to find the right play for each niche, and they're never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
It also goes on to ask, are you keep posting manually to them or using software like Money Robot?
If you're asking me, I post mostly manual now, because we're doing Reddit and some other things that there is no software for, which is definitely takes more time. But if you're doing something like with GSA or Scrapebox comments, you're throwing at the kitchen sink, you're fine to use MR, Neo, those are fine.
Ooh.
Yeah, I probably do on some of those, like on Medium as an example, kind of a hybrid, I will say. Some of it is kind of manually done, but like I like taking a video. I use one of these video to blog tools. I found one that I really kind of like, because it can automatically post out to any of the connected accounts. So if we do a new video, we drop it in there, it creates a pretty decent AI generated piece of content with the links, and then we'll auto publish that out. And the one that I'm currently using, it auto publishes out to like Medium and a WordPress sites, Blogger. I can't remember what else it does, but just by like, boop, go send it out, and boom, it'll publish it. So that way it's kind of a hybrid, right? You create their article kind of manually. I got to go drop the URL into the from the YouTube, but then boom, sends it out, and then I can put it automatically publish it out, which is kind of nice.
You just said the YouTube, FYI.
The YouTube. Yeah.
I was almost going to say that, but I'm like, you know what? I like Randy too much to say that publicly. I was going
to the YouTube. Yeah, the YouTube. Yeah.
Hey. Mark Mulvaney, should or can I build EMD branded traffic, and should I also do a doing business as for that exact match domain name? For the local businesses that he adds, and he's talking about podcasts, Amazon books, and a few other things.
Like me and Randy are huge podcast people. I don't know if Michael does very much podcast linking, but podcasts and Amazon books and putting your books on like Barnes and Nobles and places like that give you a really good do file link, and it's super strong for SEO purposes. Plus, your competition generally doesn't have those links. Yeah. So Yeah, they're really good links.
Yeah, really good links. And I have to tell you, on the podcast piece, so you don't even necessarily have to have your own podcast. Now, certainly, you could build your own branded podcast, and that's even going to be better. I think that's probably the ideal way to do it. But you don't, in order to get a good backlink from a podcast platform, you can just do it as like, be a guest on or publish as a guest on a existing podcast, and then in those show notes that they link out to wherever you want it to, and then you can get those links as well. And that's, as Ollie stated, those are really good, solid do follow links and really powerful. I was just looking at one of our clients, looking at their backlink profile, and iHeart, Podchaser, iTunes, all of these great backlinks coming from the podcasts that we put them on, and just wow, just solid.
Have you tested the IMDE podcast yet?
What?
Which
one?
IMBD or IMDE, whatever it is.
Oh, meaning what? As a guest, you mean?
No, your show over there. Have you started listing your show under there?
Oh yeah.
The links
my show is listed there. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tested the link power?
Well, I will say, if you did a branded search on Randy, now I'm going to say this without Randy, in my last efforts at this, I think that I've seen that. Yeah. So if you did just a branded search of Randy the News Guy, that IMDb podcast series Hot Off the Press is, at least on mine, it's number 2 organic. But yeah, that IMDb is a great. So when you're talking about other, kind of Web 2 or other kind of great backlinks to get, that's a great backlink.
Yeah, that would be a good strategy to test with some of the GMB stuff. For like, actually, if you added Blogstorm into it, take your blog, put it into a podcast, have a podcast, with just general marketing, and put that over there. I bet it would be, that would be pretty good. I might test that this week.
That's funny you even say that, because I actually started doing a new podcast kind of along the lines where you're going, actually. So I'm just started getting it listed on various platforms right now, and then we'll start using Blogstorm as a means of creating the content. And actually, I'm kind of doing, what I did, I can't remember, I did this either Thursday or Friday last week. I was playing around taking the audio from Notebook LM, right? Taking that file, dropping that into Blogstorm, and then doing some conversion around that with that, and then building out the audio file with that. So kind of interesting. And then publishing
something like that. Like I did. So we were working like our news network sites. So people that were posting, we were going to build a podcast of just marketing, and everyone who posted got a podcast, and then went out to like Apple and whatnot. And then we were going to put it on Reddit and then another parasite. So I got it halfway built, but the conference, and then we got busy doing other stuff. So it is something I want to go back to doing, because I think that they're really powerful links, even if you don't really get any traffic through them, or if you don't get, conversions or sales, they still take up a spot. Like you showed us, if you look up that Randy the News Guy, it still takes a spot that is important to take. Yeah.
And I think if you're a business, so in my mind, and this is where the same thing that I come with press releases, if people are, there's some stats out there. It's like 92%, 94%, something crazy like that. But some people are going to research your company or your brand before they are going to do business with you. And that number is like 92% of people will research your brand or your company before they decide to buy or something like that. And so when they do that, and this is why I think it's so important about building brand on the right now, is that when they go and they search your brand, I think you just want to dominate as much space as possible on the web, on the first page and into the second page. Not that people click over there, but if you can occupy the whole first page when somebody searches your brand, that's exactly what you want. And if you can do it with some of these Web 2.0s, if you can do it with podcasts, with a press release, I think that builds, and obviously your socials and your own website. But I think that just builds and just amplifies trust and credibility to help convert. So if you're and especially as a local business, I think that's exactly what you want to do. You want to see like, oh man, Craig's Garage Door Repair was on a podcast on IMDb. Wow, that's kind of cool. These guys must be legit, right?
Yeah, I think it's really, I mean, it is really good for brand and for brand mentions. I totally agree with you. And I don't think a lot of SEO people take advantage of that type of thing because they might think it's too difficult or they don't want to learn it or whatever the case is. I think that it's just a really big spot for people to go into.
Yeah.
But we have Mark saying he's asking if he should register his business as his exact match domain, House Cleaning Washington, as an example. So that Michael's saying no, but so House Cleaning Washington LLC, and then adding doing business as Interior House Cleaning Washington. You can use a DBA almost as a subdomain for your business.
So I personally say no, and the reason is that so think about that Google is super brand centric just for a minute, and Google also knows that like if your website is house cleaning in Washington, or let's just say Seattle argumentatively, what's going to happen is I understand why you want to get the upper leg in Seattle, because for house cleaning it's ridiculous. It's like most locksmiths in that particular area. So just because there's so many of them, I mean, honestly, if you did a 15-mile radius of the center of Seattle, you would run into almost 500 or 600 house cleaners, right? It's insane. And so I understand wanting to get the leg up on it, but you can't really brand that because I mean, you have to be super, super skilled to not overutilize that. And it takes a long time because you're hitting an exact match. So what's going to end up is that like all those subsequent keywords are going to be really hard for you to get as well, because you're really only focused on one keyword. I think if you went back to 2017, it was a fantastic idea. 2018, maybe, like pre-pandemic. But since it's become so brand focused, I personally feel like that you doing that shoots you shoot yourself in the foot, because you're limiting your potential traffic by going after one keyword. Unless, and the only caveat would be if you plan on opening up 15 or 20 or 30 Google profiles in that area to capture that top position for that one keyword, versus you may do better. And actually adding in LLC is against the terms of service. So you don't want to do that if at all possible. But what you could do is you could do something like, ABC House Cleaning Company, right? If you wanted to, because then you have something in it that separates you. At the same time, you are going to rank really well for your keyword, but it gives you the ability to be able to brand it in a way where you could do more. And you're not going to get stuck with just the one keyword.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot of sense. He also goes on to say, this is why I ask about using AMDs for local, as I'm able to steal that keyword search term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Holly and Michael, I don't know, maybe you said indirectly, but are you using some CTR activity in your method?
A little bit. Yeah.
Is that
She's going, I'm not going to tell. I mean, we are a little bit, right? But it's all done through the phones.
That's what I was just going to ask. Is that the bringing the phones and the phone inventory into play?
Yeah, you'll be seeing some pictures of phones in the next day. Like phones all hooked up. Fire truck is here because we have so much power coming through. Yeah, it's
yeah. Don't be setting anything on fire. Yeah.
I mean, mobile phones, everyone knows they're more trusted than a desktop. So at some point, I mean, we're going to be using CTR.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot you can do with them, right? In fact, I even ordered a bunch that are being sent to my house, so they'll be getting there right about the time I get home. So
actually, in fact, he got his phones in Maryland before I got my phones.
And it's right down the road from her. So
yeah. We'll have to, maybe we could do a show just on phone stuff, because I know, the thing with the phones, and it just reminds me of, Craig, your, our mutual friend that does some phone stuff, just about keeping those profiles active and as realistic as possible. So like taking the phones out while you're going to go get ice cream and doing a check-in, or doing a review or whatever, so that the phone is actually moving around, right? Whether that's, is that truly needed, or is it just,
I mean, I can understand the thought process behind it. People will say, you don't need to, or whatever. It makes perfect sense, though. If you're traveling and you're checking in at places, and even when Slaughter does the reviews and stuff, he will drive to the location first, and all that kind of stuff, and he gets his reviews to stick. So I think there's a lot of sense in it. I'm not saying it's the be all, because what he will also do is, he uses Androids, and he's got this spoofing location app on there, and he can spoof his location and be outside Holly's office, for example, or whatever it may be, and does the same thing, and it still works. So do you actually have to physically fucking carry that? I still think it's a good thing to do. You're just showing Google different stuff, and you're in a location. But could you do without it? I think the point's proven. You don't have to do it. He can spoof his location to Spain, and he can get something working no problem at all just by spoofing the location. So,
I mean, if you think about it, the cell phones too, like we're putting a Reddit network on cell phones because it's more trusted and trying to get around bans and suspicions and suspensions and shadow bans. And I see a difference when we post on a cell phone versus a desktop. Even if I'm using mobile residential, it still is there a difference. So yeah, I mean, Randy, I sold 50 to you. I sold 50 to Palmer. I did sell some, but are you using them?
You know what? I broke a few of them out a couple of weeks ago because I'm doing some stuff on Reddit with them. So,
Yeah. I mean, you're not
I'm
going to
not
know
using
unless
all
you start
50,
sit down and
but
plan.
I'm doing a few.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm kind of curious. I'll be anxious to hear what it is that you're doing. So, hey, Craig Rode Jr. He has a good question up, and I'm curious about this. CTR and the violation on the new FCC rules and could be subject to the fines.
I don't know how CTR is a violation of it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering because
we're not leaving reviews.
That's what I was thinking. From my understanding, the FCC rules that would play into any of this is about doing fake reviews, not about sending traffic.
Yeah, I mean, we're not leaving reviews. So if everyone's like, "Oh, their whole thing is based on reviews," we aren't leaving any reviews.
Yeah,
and then we aren't specifically because of that.
Right. Yeah.
And we are not calling the companies with like the cell phones because the cell phones don't actually even have like a SIM card or like doesn't even have like they don't have whatever a phone
They don't
plan.
have data. Yeah.
So those are the two big things that is a no with FCC is calling companies, and we're not doing that, and we're not doing reviews. So that's the only thing the FCC is really that I know of. I might be wrong on that, but like
it doesn't make sense. Like I don't see why they would be been out of like I could see that they're been out of shape because the business owners freak out to say, Google said I got 30 phone calls, but my phone only rang once, right? Like I could see that being an issue. I don't really see that if you sent branded CTR traffic to your Google business profile, that even if it's only 1 or 2 clicks a day, right? I don't really see where A, that they could turn around and improve it, and B, that Google would give up that information, just because then as soon as Google gives that information up, then everybody would not trust Google as much as they do now, because if you look at like iPhones, when that terrorist in Boston used the phone to set off that bomb, right, in the marathon, and then the federal government said they were going to sue Apple $1 million a day until they gave the secret code up, and Apple said no. Like for every million they spent, they got something like $10 or $15 million more a day in sales, right? Versus if they would have gave it up, it would have broke the trust of everybody who's a big iPhone, Apple user. Right. And then the opposite would have happened. And I think Google, as much as I say I think that they're so smart they're stupid, I think they're smart enough to know that the same thing would happen if they were to give up that information.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I've never seen that come up, or even I was like, so Craig Road there. Interesting. That's usually when people misspell my name. That's usually how they spell it, RHO instead of mine is ROH. But little side. But I've never even thought of that or I've heard that. So maybe that's why nobody's talking about it. There is a question in there. Yeah, a bunch of different questions. There you go.
Are you still using regular Wi-Fi to run your phones, Holly?
I'm using a couple different of Wi-Fi, and hotspots, and just not connected to one.
So multiple different things you're doing.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter though. If you could do them all on one, it's fine.
I mean, you could potentially get a Wi-Fi that has rolling IPs too, right? And then you don't have to worry about that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think I used to have ones that had rolling IPs and they were fine. And the ones that I'm connected to right now are, I don't think that they're rolling. I think they're just static. So they're fine.
When you say rolling IP for a meaning like kind of off of your router, that is really technical and probably much more technical
Yeah,
than
I'm
what I
not
want
doing
to get
that.
into on this. But I'm like, how do you set up a rolling IP on your
On a router, it's different than a hotspot.
Yeah. Is that coming by your router or is it coming through your service provider?
So like argumentatively, if you were to go get like something like, you know how a lot of the cell phone companies are coming out with their own mobile devices that you can use for internet now. It's like if they combine like 5 or 10 cell phones together. Those, because they use mobile IPs, they tend to rotate. So that, you know, they refer to them as rolling IPs because if one of them goes down, then it picks up a different IP address. And so that doesn't change. I only know that because we had switched in our house from, I won't say who it is, but it was a really crappy company that started out really well. I'd even offered to buy a second 1 gig router, and they said no, that I couldn't. And so we went to one of the mobile places and got 2 of them for the price of what I was paying for one internet. And our Hulu account will frequently go, you're out of whatever, because that's what we use as a cable thing, is Hulu. And when we called to complain about it, they were like, you have a rolling IP address. And that's when it really kind of came to mind with that. So the IP address changes periodically. So,
well, periodically, I was wondering if it rolls much more frequently, like every 15 minutes or something like that. But I do know, like with my MiFi, my little hotspot that I use from, you know, anytime I turn that on, it's going to kick up a different IP address. So I could, you know, I could just manually, like, this is where my phones are connecting to, and I'm turning it on and off or refreshing it or whatever. And so I'll always get a different IP address then, you know, kind of manually do it. But
yeah, negative. I don't do that.
Interesting.
There's a question about VPNs, just to clarify that too. I don't use VPNs for CTR. I mean, like, maybe if I'm running Awesome Traffic Bot or CTR Booster, I'll stick it on there, but then you just have to have proxies still. So
yeah.
You know, mobile phones both.
This is super crazy. Now, now we're really getting into the weeds, and Craig's like going, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. But so I use a VPN, and I noticed that when I have the VPN on, so I can turn it on and off, you know, right up from my extension piece there, man, it absolutely hammers my internet performance. Like I could have a 500 meg per second kind of download speed. I turn on my VPN and it cuts it down to like 70. I'm like, geez, that is a vicious spanking.
And who do you got your VPN through?
I use Windscribe.
I don't even know who they are, but yeah. I mean, I do VPSs through Asian Solutions and Hertzer. So
this is VPN, not VPS. The VPN service.
VPN. You should get a VPS though instead of a VPN.
Okay.
You won't have that issue.
Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah. I know what you're saying. That is a little more than what I want to deal with.
No. Mark is asking about eSIMs to double those numbers. You don't need to double the numbers. It's not about, no. You're going down the wrong trail, Mark. I mean, you can do it. It's just, it's not going to be cost effective, though.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think it's necessary to do it with eSIMs. It would be a little expensive probably down the road. Best CTR tool. This will be interesting. People probably got opinions. I have mine, but I'll let.
Awesome Traffic Bot or really? CTR Booster. It's the only 2 I use. Or Epic. I'm giving you or send a poster. Okay, that's 4.
Bloody hell, Holly.
I know. It depends upon what I'm doing.
Now, so that is so crazy because
it is, it just depends.
That is exactly what I do. I use 3. I use Epic, awesome traffic bot, and CTR booster. And so depending upon what I'm doing and what kind of CTR we're doing, I use each of them for a very specific kind of purpose. But if I had to okay, the most general, best overall that can do everything, I would always go to CTR booster.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would agree with that. I don't know. Truthfully, I'm not super in love with any particular one, right? I've tried a bunch of different ones, and I always feel like I know why they strip out all the power that these could have, because more people end up hurting themselves than they do, but I always feel like I need more control. So I go out and I would be more apt to develop my own software as I get going. Just to, and I know that's not for everybody, but with CTR, like if you do CTR booster, just as an example, and let's say you loaded up, 15 different links that you want to run some traffic through, it pulls them randomly, and random might not be the best way to do that, right? Like maybe you want them to go through an order, or maybe you want 5% to this one, 10% to that one, and 2% to the rest, right? And so it's just I need a little bit more control, that's all. So
yeah,
I know. Ollie's having all kinds of fun over there.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
I'm dancing because I got to go to the bathroom and we got to end
this.
Oh,
I know. So do I. I gotta take a wee.
I
gotta go.
Don't let her go. Don't let her go.
God.
If you're in the other room, I'll have you clean it up. I'm like, Michael, covered all my.
That's funny.
God.
Hey,
well,
I'm just gonna say too, if you want to check out what me and Michael are doing, just go over to my store or type in Holly Starks and you'll find me there. So that's my shameless plug of the day.
And Facebook, right?
And Facebook, yes.
Yeah.
And before we do wrap up, guys, do check Randy, the news guy. His link is below as well. And see what he's got on offer as well. And we will be back at the same time next week. So thank you, everyone, for coming along. And it was good to see you, Michael.
Thank you.
It's been a while.
Absolutely.
It's been too long, bro.
Yeah. I'm coming back to America next year. So
okay, nice. Good. Just let me know which one you're going to be at.
Spring training is a definite.
Okay, so, I'll be there.
Good. All right, excellent.
That's a definite. So,
and then I got to reach out to you because we're going to be coming your direction in May.
Cool. Give me a shout, dude.
Yeah.
But for this session, guys, we will catch you later. If you have enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.